go ahead. I'm also recording the meeting. All right, hello everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I went ahead and, well, first I'm gonna apologize. It's a little dark on my Zoom. Full disclosure, my house is, oh, am I still on mute? Can you hear me? Colby, can you hear me? Colby, am I good? Looks like I'm off mute now. My house is currently being renovated. I was in one of those Nashville floods, and so I don't have like any furniture or lights. So I've got this makeshift contraption going on to host this Zoom. So yeah, so bear with me. I'm sorry, it's a little bit dark. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna make it through Zoom. Anyone who jumps on, I'm probably going to go ahead and mute you just to make sure that everyone can hear and there's no distractions. For those who are just joining us, I did share the itinerary in the chat. I also went ahead and shared my contact information. So if you guys have any questions, and then if you have any questions along the way during the Zoom, please feel free to post those in the chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye out for those and answer along the way. So with that, I'll get started. My name is Jessica Enderle, and I am one of the recruiting coordinators with My Recruiting Assistant. I have been with the company for just over a year now. A little bit about my background. It started back in Southern California. My dad ran the largest volleyball club in Southern California for about 15 years. I ran a satellite club of his in Nashville for about 8. I've been an assistant director. I've ran facilities. I've ran big tournaments. I currently coach in college. So all that to be said, I've just been a volleyball nerd for about 18 years. I have sent hundreds of athletes to the next level to go play at college, and all levels of that have been represented from junior college all the way up to Power 5 and anywhere and everywhere in between. So, I love getting to, do this job. I feel very blessed, and I do feel very fortunate. to be on both sides of the recruiting, to get to do this at the college level and see, firsthand what these athletes are going through. And then also, to be on the front end with these high school kids as they're, expanding their wings and, getting ready to, make one of the, pretty much the first big decision, the first adult decision that they're going to have to make, and just, helping them navigate and, everything that these college programs are offering. There's just so much more out there than even when I was going off to college. So it's just a pretty exciting time, to be a part. So a little bit about my recruiting assistant. My recruiting assistant was started by a lady named Lauren Hansen, and she is the one that actually hired me. And she actually just recently sold the company and left and took a job with LOVB. For those of you, I don't know if anyone's heard, but LOVB is League One. It's a big company that's just kind of come in and has bought really large volleyball programs, and they're basically kind of starting, from the ground up. So Lauren will be representing them on a larger scale, and she has entrusted us to continue her vision and her journey here with my recruiting assistant. We've got a great team. I am one of the recruiting coordinators. We also have Peter, Alana, Carly, and Michaela. And you guys will primarily be working with me, but what's great is behind the scenes, we obviously we're one person, and we do work with multiple clubs, so we can't always be at every single event, but a lot of times, we will send recruiting coordinators out to specific events and, just help market our kids. And then also, like, all of us spend, all day on the phone, talking to these different coaches. So it just allows us to just have kind of a deeper knowledge of what's going on in the recruiting world, who's talking to what kid, and it helps us kind of navigate, if maybe one of the athletes we're working is a little bit further down a list or maybe a little bit higher. It also increases our range of just, college needs and what, college programs are looking for, and what is out there. So it's a pretty knowledgeable crew. We've got I would say all experience, kind of represented, and it's been nice to at least just have other recruiting people in our back pocket to be able to bounce different ideas off of, and all that. So if you guys end up following us on our social media, you'll see a lot of those folks, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But lots of good knowledge, from everybody that's, involved with MRA. My contact information, I went ahead and I posted that in the chat. It's also listed on the itinerary. So for any athletes on here, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and just texting me your first name, your last name, your grad year, the club team that you're on, and the position that you play, that would be great. I'm going to go ahead and save your number, and that just kind of helps me put all the things that I like to have with your contact. All right, so first thing that we're going to talk about is just getting started in the process. And this is probably the perfect time to do it, as we're kind of entering the holidays and we get to spend a little bit more time with family. But I think it's important for everyone to just sit down and, start this recruiting process as a conversation within your family. What does college look like, at the next level? Parents, I think this is good for you guys to maybe express some of your concerns, just in terms of, how, comfortable you are with maybe your kiddo going, a certain distance from home. I also want to encourage you guys to be open to, listening to what your athlete, what their concerns are, or what, they're excited about, and just being open to maybe stretching a little bit. Parents, you also know your kid well. So, maybe I've worked with athletes in the past that, maybe they've like really wanted to go like 2,000 miles away from home, and mom and dad are like, that's a little bit, too much. or, maybe you have a kid that's a little bit on the shyer side that wants to stay close to home, and you're like, hey, I think you need to kind of branch out and, maybe push the envelope and go 3 to 5 hours away from home, so you're not coming home every weekend. you know, I think just sitting down and just getting on the same page, making sure that you're both, talking through issues and listening to each other. It can really help with the process along the way. Just being able to, get on the same page. Also things that you want to discuss are, major distance from home, the financial piece is really important. And I think at some point in time, it doesn't necessarily have to be right now, but at some point in time, the financial conversation does need to be had. Obviously, everybody wants, to go to school for free. That's not always, necessarily realistic. So what is a reasonable out of pocket, for your family? Or, do we need to consider more of like the junior college route? Or, in some cases with some families, finances aren't an issue. So everyone's a little bit different on that. And I think it's good to just kind of have an open conversation and an open dialogue to make sure that you guys are on the same page. I think another good one too that parents can kind of help out is just with, helping your athlete envision what type of role and what type of experience that they want at the next level. I just read an article today about Lexi's son, and she's one of the players in Nebraska. And Lexi, for 3 years was a starter at Nebraska. And then she decided to take this, this COVID year and really wasn't a starter, had freshmen playing over her. And for her, she had a great attitude about it. She didn't want to finish her season on the COVID. But it's, situation doesn't work for everybody. And, parents, you've seen your kid that, maybe they've sat on the bench for a year and it was really hard for them, so maybe it's, hey, maybe this program is a little bit above your level and we need to kind of expand, and find a program where maybe you can be more of an immediate impact player, or, maybe you've seen your kid be the best on a team and maybe she hasn't thrived in that environment. So maybe, being on a team that elevates her level, where maybe she, comes in at the bottom and she's got to really work for her play time. So whatever you've kind of seen, the struggles, the journey that you've seen your athlete go through, I think those are some good things to, talk about. I think everybody, starts off with kind of something in their minds, when they're going through the recruiting process. And I do think it's good to just make sure that we're really open, along the way. So, kind of after you sit down and have your family discussion, we're going to move you guys into building your target list. So your target list is the schools that you're going to go after, in communicating, generating interest and all that. So things to consider, like I mentioned already, major, distance, finances, the level, is it a good fit? But I think things you can also think about are, size of school. Is it a small school, medium, large? The school setting, is it a rural, urban, suburban type of setting? If you're a high academic kid, maybe you want to look at a school that's more suits your academic needs. Maybe there's a school that offers, I don't know, something like study abroad, and that may be something that you're really passionate about. So I think just kind of carving out some of those factors that don't necessarily have to do with volleyball, but that are just specific to the school, because this is about academics first. Volleyball is probably not going to pay everyone's bills at the end of the day, right? So we want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're getting an education, that you're able to graduate and that you're really just set up for your future. A website that I have used in the past that has been very good. It has nothing to do with volleyball. It's just an academic website, and that's collegeboard.org. They have a really good search engine, and you're going to want to use this from a desktop or laptop computer, not from a mobile device. And you can literally type in, just any factor from, states to, school size to major. You can even add in volleyball and, the different volleyball levels in there. And it's just good to just kind of see what's out there, and you can see, how big your list is, or maybe if you have to expand on some of your parameters. It's a great starting point to just, make sure the focus is on academics first. When you're building your list, we like to have 3 categories in there, especially if you're young. I want the young athletes, like, let's go ahead and dream. For me, I was going to UCLA up until I didn't grow past 5'9", and UCLA just said no, or they actually just never responded. So having those dream schools, getting excited about the recruiting process. I think that's great when you're young, because what you want to do when you're like first starting off the process is, have a variety of schools on there, and start learning, start getting on some campuses, start, browsing some school websites, start seeing what is out there. And, everyone kind of starts this process and they just add on schools, that they know the names, but they don't really know anything about it or what they offer. So start doing research. Add those big dream schools on there. You also want to have, schools in there that are more realistic to your level. And a conversation with a coach usually helps with that. I can also help with that. Seeing where athletes in your program have maybe gone off to college in the past, that's usually helpful. And then you also want to have a backup school, or a few backup schools in there. And, the backup school is kind of the safety school. For me, it was a Division III back home in California. I knew that if any of my other offers fell through, if I got injured, something happened with my family, and I just decided that I wanted to stay in California, I could have played there, could have got my education. It was affordable for my family. It was there just in case, and I think that's just good, especially right now, because we're not, hopefully we're through the pandemic. Hopefully, we're going to be, continuing to move on from this and things will get back to normal. But what if they don't? What if you have an injury late in your career? What if your coach gets fired, right before you get there? So there's just a lot of things that can happen. And, it's just good to have that, that safety school, that backup option on there. The next thing that we want you guys to tackle is your university athlete profile. So I've included this link. Again, this will be followed up in an email. University athletes. So when you guys are at these big tournaments and you see these college coaches that are sitting there on their phones, they're looking at UA. So that's what we all kind of call it, is UA. And everybody has a university athlete profile, whether or not you use it. They are linked up to like your USA Volleyball or your AAU number, and then they're also linked up to rosters at most all events kind of have the option now. So you want to make sure that your contact information is updated in there, especially if you're transitioning from another club, because if your UA has contact information from your previous year, and remember, this is all linked up to like your USA Volleyball account. So if you're transitioning to a new club this year, a coach may like your kid, they may tag them in UA and then send them an email, but it may go to the previous club, and that previous club may not be nice enough to send over the email. So it's just good to make sure that it's in there. It's free. There is a paid version. You do not need it. There is a button for NCSA. You do not need that either. So we just want to make sure that your contact information is in there. As a college coach, I am in this every day. It is how I stay organized. Like, I have all my kids in there that I am recruiting. I have all their information tagged. I have notes for myself, for my assistant. I get to see the communication from the athlete. So it's just a really good tool. That was actually developed by a college coach. A friend of mine developed this, and so it is used for college coaches, by college coaches, and so you just want to make sure that you get that done. You will need either your USAV or your USA or your AAU volleyball number to get that set up. The third thing that we want to start tackling is highlight film. You want to have 2 types of film available and ready. So the days of kind of like the skill volleyball videos are kind of coming to an end. However, I did have a coach last week ask an athlete of mine to send over 60 serve receive passes in a row. So it was kind of the first time that I've gotten that in a while. But most of the time it's just like the best clips of a match. Typically you don't want to have like a bunch of clips from a bunch of matches. If there's like one or two matches that you can pull a lot of highlights from, that's great because it shows consistency. And always the best view for those of you parents who, do any sort of reporting, the end line, straight from the end line, if you can get in the center, that's the best view that coaches want to see. It's easy for us to see, a lot of the different things that, that we're kind of looking at. You also want to have unedited game film available. I don't necessarily recommend sending that out, but you do want to have it available just in case a coach asks. So a highlight video, the purpose of it is just to pique the interest of a coach. It's not, no one's going to be getting a scholarship off a highlight video, but it's just to kind of put your kid in two categories, like either they're close enough at our level that we're going to go see them in person, or they're not close and, we're going to send them an, nice thank you, but no thanks, letter. So the highlight video, or the unedited game film is just if a coach can't make it to a tournament that you're going to be at, or maybe they're from a little bit further distance and, their travel budget doesn't allow them to come watch the athlete, coaches will ask, the athletes to send that film. And what they're looking for, they just want to see how they react, after they make a mistake, what is their game like mannerism, how are they interacting with their teammates out on the court? How are they interacting with their coach? So don't edit any of that stuff out. That's the stuff that they want to see. When your kid goes off to college, we're going to see the good and the bad. And that's what coaches are trying to navigate to make sure that the good and the bad, both fit with what we're looking for. So on to communication basics. When you're starting this process, it's super important to stay organized. Even if you're only talking to a handful of programs, once you start having these conversations with coaches, it's really easy to, maybe forget who you've emailed or, the details from that conversation. So we'll be sending out a target list spreadsheet for you to use. If there's something else that you like better, that's totally fine. Whatever works for you is great. We want to have something, that just keeps track of all the information, because it's, as you go along this process, sometimes you can get a little bit confused or, was that a conversation with this school or this school? And so just being able to have stuff in one place, is going to be important. And it'll help, streamline your process a little bit just when you go start emailing coaches and contacting them. Being able to have their contact information ready in one place is going to make the process go quicker. You also want to, during this time, just kind of do a once over and make sure that you're double checking. There's a lot of coach turnover, especially right now in this time of year. So just kind of keep an eye on the programs. Assistant coaches are being updated, head coaches, there's kind of the big coach shuffle that goes on at this time of the year. So you want to make sure that when you go start emailing coaches, that you're actually emailing the right staff, because I can tell you, I have personally received a lot of emails from schools that are not mine, and emails to people who are not me. So just make sure that you do a once over and you're emailing the correct person. So what to include in your email, you want to make sure that it is specific to each school or program. Try not to send just like a blanket email that's just kind of fishing, just a general. If you can show that you've done a little bit of research on the school, follow their social media, get on their website, try to find some, details. Coaches, we tend to get pretty excited about, the programs that we coach at. And so when someone's taken the time to, research a specific academic program, or, if they've seen that we've had a big accomplishment, this year with our team, and a kid notices that and they've taken the time to actually look at our school, that makes us want to invest a little bit more, time in that athlete. So you want to include, some specifics, why you're interested in that program. Make sure that the email is short and sweet. I can tell you that most of the time when I get emails from recruits, it's on the cell phone, and that's what I'm looking at. And, it's pretty quick. So if it's a novel, I'm probably not going to read all the way through it, just because I don't have time, and most coaches don't have time. So short, sweet, to the point. You want to make sure that your academic information's in there. You want to make sure that your first and last name are in there too. That's always important. Your graduation year, and your reasons for emailing the school. Also, you want to make sure that your highlight video is in there. Do not email a coach before you have your highlight video ready. And the reason for that is that's going to be the first thing that they ask you. And so if you kind of delay the process, they may lose interest in you if you don't have that available. So that's one of the first things that you want to have ready. It's super frustrating when an athlete reaches out and you've got to wait weeks for a film. That's something that you want to have, and it needs to be included on every single email that you send out. A coach may not read the first email you send, but they may read, email number 3. So always make sure that highlight video link is included on there. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but parents, we want to make sure that the communication is always coming from the athlete. You guys are not going to college with your kids, or hopefully you're not. So we want to make sure that the athlete, is in the driver's seat. This has got to be an athlete driven process, for this to be successful. And I can tell you that it puts up some red flags. And we can totally tell if a parent has written an email, on behalf of their kid, and it's going to go in the trash. So make them do the work, make them go through the hard. You're not going to be there with them at college. So they need to start, learning how to communicate. They need to start learning, to have some successes and some failures, in this journey. That's okay. It's all part of the learning, growing process. And I promise it's going to help them out at the next level. So the next thing, what does MRA provide? The first thing that I'll talk about is Quoach. You guys are new to us this year. And so previously, all our information with MRA, just all our resources we used to store in Google Drive. So we've basically moved everything over to Quoach. It's just more of like a professional platform, other than just Google Drive. So, we're trying to spiff up our end a little bit. And so once we get the rosters and all the contact information from your club, you'll get an email. And then you'll have to sign a contract. There's no fee involved for that. We just have to have the contract listed on there for each player, just to meet NCAA requirements, just to have that on file. And then you guys will get all the access to Quoach. So there is videos in there that just kind of walks through the step-by-step. So if you're coming off of this and your head's spinning a little bit and you're like, oh, I kind of, don't remember everything she talked about in building a target list. Well, we've got a breakdown of, all the things, that are specific to target list building, and basically every step of the process. In there, we also include email templates. We have college coach contact information that's typically updated, I think 4 or 5 times a year. So even though we do have that, it's, as soon as we put it out there, a coach could leave the next day. So you still want to double check and, just make sure that everything is still correct. And then we do have a college needs list that is also updated frequently throughout the year. I feel like it has given athletes a lot more confidence when they're emailing a school and they know that that school is recruiting their position. And so that's basically what the college needs list. Like we go out there and we ask coaches like, hey, what are you recruiting for this graduation year? And sometimes the coaches will kind of include like maybe a different style or, grade point average or, some different intangibles, that they're kind of looking for in their athletes. We also assist in creating your target list, setting up mock phone calls for preps, prepping for visits. We answer your recruiting questions that you have along the way. We do provide highlight videos. That is at an additional fee. Probably not a good salesperson of me, but if, financially, it's, highlight video from us isn't in the budget and you need me to walk you through on how to build a, highlight video, I'm more than happy to do that. So, we're not out here to price gouge everyone. We want to make sure that, all our athletes are taken care of. And, there are definitely ways that, we can make sure, that your kiddo gets a good video. We do also promote athletes on our social media. So if we build a video ourselves, we do promote that typically on our Instagram page. Any videos that maybe the athletes do or any highlight clips will usually go on our Instagram story. And we typically will go out to tournaments and try to promote our athletes there. As I've told parents in the past, like if we're obviously every kid is not going to be highlighted, and we're not trying to be mean. It's just, typically we've got a lot of teams and a lot of players, and maybe when we were there, we didn't get a good clip. But if you feel like your kiddo hasn't been highlighted or hasn't been featured, just send me something, and I'm more than happy to post it. So we're all in this together, and I'm definitely not in this to try to make a kid feel left out. So instead of getting mad, let's just, reach out and send me some things, and, we can make sure, they're taken care of. And please know, like, no athletes are getting scholarships, from being promoted on our, Instagram story. All that is just basically to say, like, hey, we've got this really good group of kids, and they're playing at this tournament this weekend. So if you guys are there, like, stop by, go see them in person. So that's pretty much what we try to do with our social media. And the kids get excited, I think, and there's a lot of younger coaches, that are out there at these various programs. So social media is the thing amongst the younger generation. So, we got to stay in the times and do what the cool kids do. So I think that's kind of it. We do offer advice and education along the way. Sometimes part of my job is to have conversations about being realistic, to your level of play. And sometimes those are tough conversations. I'm not trying to be mean or, anything like that, but we just want to make sure that, the schools ultimately at the end of the day, especially if you're late in your recruiting process, if you're a junior or a senior, we've got to make sure that, the list of our realistic schools, just really match up, so we're end up being successful, because ultimately at the end of the day, this is about getting an education. We want that to be, the priority. And the last thing, like, recruiting takes work. I'm not here to do your job. Nobody is trying to recruit me to go play in college. Nobody wants to see me play volleyball anymore. It's a tragic situation. They want to hear from the athletes. So the players, like, you guys are expected to, get on the phone, calling coaches, emailing coaches. I can tell you, as a college coach, there is nothing more frustrating to me when I get an email from a recruiting coordinator, hey, this kid is highly interested in your school. And I go and I look through my email and I've not heard from this kid once. Like, that kid's not interested in my school. So, we're not recruiting coordinators that are here fishing. You've got to do the work to show that you're interested in, this program. And, we're going to be here to guide you through these steps in the process. And, once that relationship is built, absolutely, we're going to go go to bat for you. But you've got to be in the driver's seat of, really being your advocate, building that relationship, taking some time to, navigate this process. So, the next kind of little area is the player and parent expectations. Parents, we do ask you guys to take a back seat. We want this to be an athlete-driven process. Make your kid do every step of this process, and everything from, the college applications, and FAFSA, to even the basics of, building that target list, researching schools. They need to start doing the work on this. This is their journey. They're the ones that are going to be going off and playing to the next level. And, coaches need to know that they're going to be able to, handle everything that comes with being a college athlete. So the more that you can help prepare them, the more successful that they're going to be. Parents, I would say film as much as you can. That's a great role for moms and dads, finding an iPad, all these cameras, all these cell phone cameras that we have nowadays are great. Get your little tripod, sit it behind the court, record. That's a good role that you guys can have. Also make sure that you are watching how you are at tournaments. Coaches are watching you just as much as they're watching your kids. So, make sure you're not yelling at the official, make sure that you're not, coaching your child from the sidelines. That stuff is, red flags. So make sure that you're sitting there, you're being positive, you're not speaking ill of, anyone else's kid. Coaches will see that. And unfortunately, I've, been out on the recruiting journey where I've seen, kids get marked off lists because of how their parents acted. So just make sure that you're on, your best behavior, during the tournaments. And then also, like, when they go on visits, when they're jumping on phone calls, make sure you're not in the forefront of this. I've had athletes that have gone on visits to my school where, a mom's been talking the whole entire time and the kid maybe said 2 words or, 5 words, 10 words. I know that mom is super excited about my school and my program, but I'm just not feeling that from the kid. So it's probably not going to go there. I've also had, phone conversations that have been the same way where, a parent has really taken over and, I don't get to build that relationship with the kid. And if I don't get to build that relationship with the kid, they're probably not going to end up at my institution. So really helping prepare them. And obviously, if you see certain things along the way, like maybe you're listening in on a conversation and, they're kind of struggling, let me help out with that. We can navigate and, really help give them some tools, to be successful. And the last thing, and this is kind of coming from my club director, background, recruiting is hard and it's kind of draining. And I've also seen comparison rip club teams apart. So I think it's really important, keep your recruiting process amongst yourself, to your family, like with me, your club director, and your coaches. Make sure your daughters, and even you guys as parents, make sure you guys aren't comparing back and forth. I know everybody's well-intentioned, but sometimes, like, everybody has a different timeline. What everybody is looking for is different. So sometimes if, negative thoughts or certain things can creep into people's heads or, jealousy can happen. And we just want to make sure that that's not creeping in the team because that can affect performance. And, in order for these athletes to be successful, we want them to be rock stars out on the court. We want them to be super confident out there. So, if someone on your team or in your club commits, like, that's awesome. That's exciting. And, that says so much about your team and your club and your program. And we're excited for them. But as we're going along in the process, like, just keep everything to yourself. It's just going to keep and, create a healthy environment, within your program. And so just kind of like your quick checklist, like following this meeting, like we talked about, take some time over the holidays, sit down as a family, start talking about what this looks like for you guys. Talk about the finances, the distance, I think, what you're comfortable with, potential majors. I know if we've got some younger athletes in here, you may not have any idea what you want to do, and that's okay. But mom and dad, you might be able to, help them with that. Maybe they're a math and science kid. Maybe you've seen them be really successful in some areas. So maybe you can kind of help, just kind of bring some ideas to the table about what, they might be interested in. The second thing that you're going to want to do is to start build your target list of schools. And then start tracking down some video or have a plan of getting video soon. Maybe that's a practice or, maybe we can plan on getting some film when you guys start playing in tournaments or if there's a scrimmage that goes on or even from your high school seasons. And then once those are done, then you're going to start creating your email that you're going to send out to schools. I've also I've also included the My Recruiting Assistant social media platforms. Parents, kids, like, jump on this stuff. This is great. We've got a lot of our recruiting coordinators that are on there daily, just sharing recruiting tips and information. We're also highlighting and showcasing kids. So just, some really good stuff that goes on there. Also following this meeting, once we get the roster information, we'll get you guys set up in Quoach. So you can get started in, going through the process of, just learning and, seeing everything in there. It's really great. It's not, it's still brand new. So if you guys have like any feedback or anything on how we can make that better, please send that my way. I guess the great thing about it, what my boss ladies told me is like, we still have some wiggle room that we can, make some adjustments and changes if we need to along the way. So definitely interested to hear your feedback. And then, contact me if you guys have any questions. You will be able to set up meetings with me in Quoach, but you guys will also have my cell phone and my email if you need it. So that is kind of my spiel to get you guys started. Like I said, all this will be followed up with an email, but is there any questions that you guys have for me? You can go ahead and type it in the chat. You can come off mute and ask away. No questions? Great question. The typical length of a highlight video, I would say anywhere from like a minute 30 to maybe a max of 3 minutes. And you want to make sure that all the best clips are at the front. So college coaches have the attention span of a gnat. They are probably only going to watch like 30 seconds of a video. So you want to make sure that all the really good stuff is at the beginning. So they're going to watch the full length of it. So don't make it like 10 minutes long, but I would say anywhere from like a minute 30 to 3 minutes is a good highlight video. And we do actually have sample highlight videos in Quoach too. Any other questions? Well, if nobody has any other questions, this will be recorded, or it is recorded, and it'll be uploaded so everyone can go back and reference it too if they need. I will stick around at the end of this, so if anyone wants to kind of ask me a question one-on-one, that's fine too. So I'll stick around for a few more minutes. No questions? I did that good of a job. Well, if nobody else has any questions, you guys are free to go enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. I wish you all a wonderful and Merry Christmas, safe travels during this holiday. And thank you all. I look forward to working with everybody. Thank you, April. Thank you, Mitch. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you, Kim.